Hey everyone, it's Dave Clark, race director of the Whistler Half Marathon here with Darren McPeake, Mountain Mornings radio host from Mountain FM. Hey Darren, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me. This is great.
Awesome to see you. It's in this day of COVID-19, we don't often get to see a lot of people, so it's we're on the phone mostly, and so it's nice to be able to do these Zoom meetings for sure. So thanks for playing along with us. And
Sure.
The whole premise of this, as I sort of mentioned to you earlier, was to kind of have a little chat around some music. We at the Whistler Half Marathon, music's a super important part of things for us. We do our soundtrack contest every year, as you know, and we're always trying to put together, curate a cool, soundtrack for the event and play cool music at the event and stuff. So, but I wanted to reach out and have a chat with you a little bit about some of the music that you dig, and I think, based on your T-shirt there, you got a Led Zeppelin shirt on. You're a bit of a rock and roller too, and so getting you to throw together a little playlist in Spotify was cool to see some of the stuff you're listening to. So, but anyway, so we just wanted to kind of chat through that a little bit and had some questions for you and stuff. So.
Sure.
For those of you who don't know, Darren's been our MC for 6 or 7 years, I'd say, at the Whistler Half Marathon now.
Yeah, sounds like it. Sounds right.
Somewhere around there. So you would have seen him at the start lines. You'll see him on the stage during the main event, and we're super thankful that Darren's able to have been there this year, every year for all these years. Not able to be there this year, unfortunately, with the event canceled. But last year he calls me up one day and he's like, "Hey, Dave, any chance that we could maybe get me to run this year?" And it's like, of course, sure. How are we going to start the races without you there? But anyways, Darren, you jumped to the challenge and jumped into the 10K last year, which was awesome.
Yeah.
I started it and then jumped into the crowd. So tell us a little bit about kind of how you got into running, what running sort of means to you.
I've never really been a runner, but I guess a long time ago when I lived in California, I got into running on treadmills at a tennis club that I used to go work out at. I'd play tennis and then I'd run on the treadmill for a bit, and I kind of got into it that way. And I know it's not the same as road running, but it was a really good way to get the weight off, and I just felt so much healthier from doing it. And then a few years later, I was approached to do the San Francisco Women's Marathon with Team in Training, where I worked at the time. And the idea was we would promote it at the radio station, and then I would try and help raise money for leukemia, lymphoma research.
Right.
So they train you, Team in Training. And so at first I thought, oh, no way, a marathon, I can't do that. But then they kind of, they sort of psych you up, when they talk to you, because they're very enthusiastic people, the TNT group, they're great. And so I thought, yeah, you know what, you're right, I can do this, sure. So I went for it, and I trained with them, and I did a marathon when I was about, I think I was 37 at the time, okay. 36, 37. So, and I ran the first half of it properly, I kept a steady pace, and but then I started to really feel it in my hips, and so then I did a walk-run combination, and then before I knew it, finally there was the finish, getting, into the last mile there. And there's something about a live event, when you're with people who are doing it, they kind of propel you, and then when there's a crowd there at the finish line, man, you really feel that adrenaline, and they pretty much carry you through, and I'll never forget that. And it was just so awesome. It took me 6 hours, but I didn't care. I just wanted to finish it. I didn't care about winning anything, and I'll never forget it. So I've always gone to running as a way to, and I also found that it can really clear your head. So I've always stuck with treadmill running at the gym to clear my head and to keep the weight off. But then I didn't do any other event until maybe I did a Terry Fox run. And then when I got involved with you guys, and then just 1 year to mix it up, I thought I should run this thing and see if I can still do this. So I went for the 10K, and yeah, it was really cool. I really enjoyed it, and I felt so good when it was over. So yeah, it's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we've all got a story of how we get into it, right? And often they're pretty cool and then pretty inspiring stuff like that too, where people are getting into it for health reasons, mental health reasons, all of that. It's pretty awesome. And yeah, I've been a runner kind of all my life. I got into it early. Well, I guess I didn't even in elementary school, but seriously in high school. And so it's pretty cool. I had a great coach in the time, and she was one of the first ladies to ever run the Boston Marathon. So pretty cool stuff.
Wow.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you did before you're the host of Mountain Mornings at Mountain FM, and obviously you've alluded to a little bit of it there down in California and such. But maybe tell us a little bit about your past before being in the Sea to Sky.
Well, I grew up skiing in Ontario.
Okay.
If any is why there are so many people here from Ontario, it's because we ski in Ontario on hills, and that's fine. That's all they have. There's nothing they can do about it. And we had a good time doing it, but we always knew that, there was more, in the way of elevation, like going to Quebec, which is so much closer. That's an easy road trip. And then if we were lucky enough, we'd get to come out west. So I had an interest in music and in skiing. So when I was in high school, before I got into radio, I did come out west and I worked for a little bit in Whistler for a spring and summer. But then I went back to Ontario in the fall for school. And then that's when I got into radio. So they had a co-op program where you could work at anywhere you wanted, as long as you pursued it and you secured it, and you get course credit. So I picked our local radio station.
Cool.
And so I pretty much just did whatever I could for free for course credit.
Yeah.
And they needed someone to work on Christmas Day on air because no one else wanted to. And this was long before automation. And so I said, sure, I'll do it. Great, no problem. So that's kind of how I cut my teeth on the air. And then I eventually came out west to work at Whistler again. And then I knew I wanted to go to BCIT for the broadcast program. So I did that, and I just stayed in BC because it was, really good to me. I just always found that things happened for me in BC.
Yeah.
And I love it. I've loved it here ever since. So I did the broadcast program at BCIT, and then I got my first pro full-time radio job at the Q in Victoria. Okay. And I love that we can still kind of hear it here. And I was there for about 5 years. And then I went to California for 8 years. I was down in Ventura, California. I lived in LA for a little bit, and I tried really hard to get into the LA market, which is really hard because it's very competitive and there are a lot of talented people that you're up against. And I was nobody from Canada, but I did, getting into the Ventura market, which is smaller. It's funny because it's kind of small for American sized cities, but I mean, there are like 500,000 people in that market alone.
Right.
But and it's not far from LA. It's just up the road, it's like an hour away.
Absolutely.
So I interviewed for a couple of stations. I did one live audition, which was pretty cool on a station there called K-Big. And then that's as close as I got. And then I got an offer to go work at Star 1013. So I was there for 2 years in San Francisco before I got downsized, which then eventually led me to come back to Canada. Skiing kind of pulled me in. Whistler and skiing kind of pulled me in, and I met my wife in Whistler during that time.
Cool.
So I decided to leave California as much as I loved it. I had such a great time there. And again, that was one of those places where things just kind of happened for me. It was an awesome place. And I followed my wife a year later to the UK, where I lived there for 3 years with Moira in London.
Wow.
And we worked on getting her status to come into Canada. And then once that was secured, we came back to BC, and we were in the Kootenays for about a year and a half. But while we were in London, like a couple of months before we were trying to, trying to move, I talked to Joe Polito about the morning show position they had available at Mountain FM. And ultimately, we wanted to be back in Sea to Sky, in Whistler.
Right.
And when I lived in California, I never thought I'd leave California. And uh, I forgot about this, but when I eventually came back to Sea to Sky, I remembered telling my dad when I was in high school after coming back from Whistler the first time, I said, there's a little radio station in Squamish, maybe I could work there one day.
Hmm.
And I
right?
forgot about that. Yeah. And two, because I had done, been in some bigger markets, and I thought, well, I guess, I'm going to be I proved that I can work in bigger markets, and that's kind of the goal for a lot of people in the industry.
Yeah.
And I never thought I would end up back in Squamish at Mountain FM. But awesome. And it's been one of the highlights of my career, and I'm really happy it happened. It's so weird how things happen, Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Things all happen for a reason. Sometimes it takes full circle, right? To end up where you really dream to be. So that's awesome that you've been able to pull your love for skiing and your love for music sort of together and have a career and a lifestyle that matches, right? Not everybody gets that opportunity. So
yeah, I feel really fortunate, and a lot of people come through and work at Mountain FM who aren't interested in mountain biking or skiing. It's more for them. It's maybe their first job, it's a way to get into their career, and then they move on to something else.
Yeah, absolutely. It serves many purposes, right? So absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. You put together a fantastic looking playlist here on Spotify, and I just wanted to run through a little bit of it. First of all, I wanted to comment on the fact that it's 4.5 hours long. So are you listening to this whole thing in one run session? Because that's a long run. That's a really long run.
I would be pretty pleased with myself if I was.
That's awesome.
No,
that's awesome.
They just kept. I didn't know where to stop.
That's okay, and you've got some amazing music on here. And one band I saw over and over again here, and I think it might be something to do with one of your favorites, the Beatles.
Yeah,
a little bit about the Beatles mean to you.
I guess that's where it all starts. Yeah. I love the Beatles. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you've got Back in the USSR, Helter Skelter, Ballad of John and Yoko, I Don't Want to Hold Your Hand. Any one of those a particular favorite, or are any one of those your number one Beatles song?
Well, I don't know. It's really hard to pick one, but I was just thinking about songs that, have a different reason to sort of impact you. So I Want to Hold Your Hand. I don't know. It's just such a bright and cheery, and hopeful song, and it's one of their earlier ones, and I love it. That one, and I Want to Hold Your Hand, and Twist and Shout, Twist and Shout because of the Ferris Bueller's Day Off soundtrack, and then the Ballad of John and Yoko. It's because I was also, when I was putting this together, I was trying to think of the theme of moving and running, and that one is the story of how John and Yoko were trying to get married, and they were, it's kind of a harried story from what I understand, and how they were trying to run from the paparazzi and the press,
right.
But I think at the same time, they were also kind of welcoming them because they were doing their bed in for peace in Amsterdam.
Right.
And then Back in the USSR, again, like another song where you feel like you're kind of you're running towards something, and two, it was a really good moment in the movie Yesterday. It was sort of a pivotal moment in the movie Yesterday. If you've never seen that, the one that came out last fall.
Right.
So yeah, and then was there another one? Either way, but Helter Skelter.
Helter Skelter, yeah.
Just like if they were going to be heavy metal for 5 minutes, that's their sort of heavy metal moment. Helter Skelter. Yeah, I love that. It's just such a great song, and it's a ride. The Helter Skelter. It's a ride. In Blackpool, I think. Yeah. So again, it's a song sort of about movement. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. It kind of hits that's probably about the heaviest that they've done, and the fact that Motley Crue covered it, many days later is a testament to that fact, right? I see some Led Zeppelin to match his shirt there. Immigrant Song, great one. Some Queen. We've got a live at Wembley in '86 there. Obviously one of the greatest songs of all time. A little bit of
that intro, the way the crowd reacts to that, I still, the hairs on the back of my neck stand up whenever I hear the crowd react to Queen coming on stage with that. You know, I just, it's so uplifting. Yeah, I love it.
Well, it's amazing the power you can have when you've got, 100,000 people together, whether it's there or Hyde Park or numerous other places. We'll see them in Los Angeles. It's, amazing feeling for sure. You got a couple of my favorites on here for sure. The Who Are You?
Yeah. I love that because good story. Pete Townsend, apparently he wrote that after hanging out with Steve Jones and Paul Cook at a pub in Soho. And he, I think if I've got this right, he's on the ground by the front door to this pub, like in the sort of the doorway, and a cop walks by and recognizes him and says, do I know who you are? I think I know who you are.
Recognize that face.
And Pete Townsend, Pete Townsend is a punk, and he's like, get it from me, copper. And the cop's like, look, if you play by the rules here, you'll get to sleep in your own bed tonight. Okay. That's kind of how the story goes about that.
Interesting.
The lyrics behind it. Yeah.
I haven't heard that one, but one of my favorite Who songs for sure.
It's such a powerful song. Like it's just a great rocker. I love it. And Keith Moon and John Entwistle is such a powerhouse. That rhythm section, and then with Pete's guitar on top of that, and the howl of Roger Daltrey. Oh yeah, it's the layers on that song are just wicked. I love it.
There's all their songs, I think, are pretty crazy, right? It's four
pretty cool,
amazing artists come together there. You've got a favorite of mine from the Sex Pistols, Pretty Vacant. That takes me back to my angst of my youth for sure. Van Halen, Run with the Devil. Good Run theme songs. The Long Run, the Eagles, one of my favorite bands.
I love that band, and I have ever since high school. Before 1984, like a couple of years before that, I started to read music magazines, and that's how I got into Van Halen. I love them. Yeah, they're great.
I did see that Global Citizen is doing a online concert with a number of different artists in connection with the World Health Organization. And that's on April 18th, 5 p.m. Pacific, I think. Right. And I really noticed it. Eddie Vedder's one of the artists there, and I'm a big fan of him. So, so there's somebody who really wants to do good through his music, right? Make the world a better place. So notice that one. So that's a good one to watch for the 18th for sure. Going through a little bit more of your list here. We won't go into great detail with everything, but some Beastie Boys. That's fun. You got some of my Pearl Jam on there. Thank you very much. But I wanted to round it out with probably, in my personal opinion, one of the greatest songs of all time, and that is "Times Like These" by Foo Fighters. Self-proclaimed huge fan for sure. Them and Pearl Jam are my two tops for sure. I'm also a big Doors fan and a number of other 70s groups there too. But Times Like These for me, and the story behind it, I don't know if you've heard kind of the story behind it when he wrote this, Dave Grohl, but to me it's one that I always reflect back on, when things seem tough in life. And sometimes when I'm out running, it seems really tough, but just in general, right? And the story of, hey, absorb the moment, take the moment in and let it be part of you. Let it absorb you to some degree. Don't let it rule your life, but certainly be present in it. Because when he wrote that song and Taylor Hawkins had just overdosed and was in a coma in the hospital, he thought, this is it. He's done. The band is done. And it was his way of processing those feelings. And the lyrics are, "Times like this, you learn to live again." And somehow in those really deep, dark moments, you learn to live again. So, musically, I don't know that it's necessarily the best song ever written for sure, lyrically, and the story that it came from is super compelling for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it's just it's an optimistic song. It sounds like an optimistic song, you know.
yeah,
And sort of there's a certain sort of warmth to it that I really liked. And I've always loved the Glenn Campbell cover of
right.
it, and I love that he did that song. Yeah, it's just I love it. It's a beautiful song.
Yeah, it is absolutely, and just a brotherhood that's there in the Foo Fighters, you know, where you know Dave Grohl from his time in Nirvana, clearly one of the greatest rock and roll drummers of the ever, and the fact that he was able to find somebody like Taylor to sort of fill the shoes that you know some people didn't think would ever be filled, right? And so it's pretty cool the brotherhood that exists between those two in particular. And to see where they are now, and it's still, you know, they're still banging it out. And but I've always said times like these, that's the one that needs to be played at my funeral on acoustic version. So one day down the road, whenever that is, that's my final wish. But
that's a nice choice.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've got some great music on here, Darren, and I love the fact that you put this together. We put it on our as our playlist too on the Whistler Half Spotify page there, or share it around. But I want to say, you know, huge thank you for taking the time to pull this together.
You're welcome.
And sit down and chat with us about music. And yeah, it's cool to be able to connect for sure.
I was happy to. I really enjoyed putting that playlist together. It's something I think I need to do more often. And you know, I love how we can share music these days, and how you know, I like to think that, you know, it helps people the way that music is being shared today. I like to think it makes people have a wider range of tastes, you know, because there's so much to choose from, you know, and there are so many bands out there, so many artists, you know, and it's an amazing thing. Music is just such a powerful thing, and you're right, you know, it brings people together. The two things that bring people together the most: food and music. You know, it's amazing.
Absolutely. No, for sure. No, you nailed that one.
Yeah.
Awesome, Darren. Well, thank you very much for your time here today. We'll close up the recording, and I look forward to hopefully being able to see you in person again sometime soon.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Please stay healthy, and yourself and Moira and all your loved ones, and wishing you all the very best through all this crazy time.
Yeah, thanks. The best to you, all the best to you and Wendy and the kids. And thanks. Really nice talking to you.
Yeah, you too, Darren. Take care of yourself.
All right, buddy. Take care, man.
Bye-bye.